Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. On today's episode, we're going to be talking about basements. If your basement looks like this, I got a quick tip for you. Stay tuned. Alright guys, so if you guys have a basement, you probably have at least one wall that looks something like this. Meaning you have at least one wall that has some fiberglass insulation on it, and your insulation may be faced or it may not be faced. It really doesn't matter if it's faced or unfaced because you're still going to have the same problem. So in today's episode, we're going to be talking about how to stop suffering from this fiberglass insulation. Okay? Alright, so fiberglass insulation, as most of you guys know, if it rubs on your skin, it's going to get itchy, it's going to get annoying. It's mostly an irritant. I don't think the government and governing bodies and whatnot have classified it as a carcinogen, even though a lot of people disagree and think that it should be. Anyways, the point is that hey, if that stuff gets on your skin, it's very irritant. Just imagine what happens when you breathe it in. It's going inside your lungs. Surely it won't be itchy, but you'll probably be irritant, and long-term exposure to that will definitely cause a bunch of health issues. Remember, this is glass spun fibers, a lot of silica. It's not like your system or your body's going to be able to digest this stuff. If you have asthma or all those other respiratory issues, this is only going to make it a lot worse. So long-term exposures, very bad. Actually, even short-term exposures, bad, but it's not going to kill you short-term. But long-term exposures, definitely going to kill you. So make sure, if you have a wall like this, make sure you stay tuned and check out the rest of the episode. All right, so as we've established, the fiberglass insulation is bad in terms of inhaling it. It doesn't necessarily do the best job at insulating, but does a very decent job, which is why everyone has been using it for the last like couple of decades or whatnot. But we want to avoid the fiberglass insulation in our lungs. Most of the people can avoid fiberglass insulation on their skin because they're not going to be touching it. But even if you don't disturb it, there's still airborne particles that are fiberglass particles that are airborne that will get into your lungs as you spend time down there. If you don't spend a lot of time in your basement, it's not going to be as big of an issue, but if you spend quite a bit of time down there, it's going to definitely be bad for your health. So we're going to tackle this. So in my case, for whatever reason, the previous homeowners had some of the baths that were faced and some of the baths that were unfaced. I'm not sure what was going on there. Who knows what teenagers or homeowners or whatever they did down there. The point is that in my case, they were mixed match, so I just kind of took the rest of them off. And I also discovered a slew of other issues. As you can see, there's staining on the fiberglass insulation. It means air and vapor is moving through there. It's at least allowing it to breathe. Yes, I know I can already hear the comments you guys are going to say, just take it out, it's going to smell, all that fun stuff. Hey, if I take it out, I got to go to the store and get some more stuff and then put it back, and then I may still have the same issues. Who knows? Anyways, I just left it there for my sake. But through this process, I figured out a lot of stuff wrong with this wall. If you guys have been following the channel, we fairly recently moved into this house. We were able to move into this house because we know it needs a lot of TLC, and we just planned to tackle a lot of that TLC stuff ourselves. In this case, this was an issue that we didn't even know about until now. So when it rains, this side of the house, this wall just leaks, and it leaks pretty badly. And I did a lot of investigation on it, and I figured out that it leaks mainly because the wall is not flashed properly, like up above it, and it is not built properly. When I say not flashed properly, so up above, so other side of this wall is going to be brick. On top of the brick, starting with the main floor, it starts to become hardy plank upwards. So where the hardy plank meets the brick, you need to put flashing there such that the water that gets on the hardy plank will roll out, and even when it gets behind it, it should roll out. For whatever reason, there is no flashing there, and it literally just hardy plank just touching the brick, and obviously that's not going to be waterproof. Actually, brick itself is not waterproof. The other thing is this wall was not built right. So as you can see in this picture, part of this wall has that fiberglass board on it, and then the other part has 7/16 OSB, and you can see here the OSB is a little dark, mainly because it's a little wet. It still hasn't fully dried out from the rainstorm we had a couple days ago, and that was before I mitigated the water. So if you're going to do what we're doing in this episode, make sure your basement does not leak. I mean, you mitigate the water issues. This wall is not built properly, mainly because there is no WRB on this wall, and there is no air gap between the brick and this wall. So when you build a brick wall, Most builders nowadays will have the framed wall. Then they'll put their sheathing on it, and then they'll put the WRB on it, weather resistant barrier, and then they will put an air gap, and that air gap may have like Delta Vent SA or some kind of drainage solution or like a mortar net. And then they will put the brick, leaving somewhere between a half inch to an inch air gap, so that when it does get wet or when the water goes through the brick, it'll just go down and out. In our case, for some reason, whoever built this thing, the brick is touching the fiberglass board directly, and where the OSB is, the brick is touching the OSB directly. So that's going to be a problem. So we know we need to fix this and just tear down the wall and just build it up properly again. But obviously, that's going to be thousands of dollars, and we know we're going to do that sometime in the long run. But in the short term, we need to do something so we can spend time down here and just work on other stuff. Okay. So the solution we're going to do here is going to be short term slash long term, but we know it's not going to be permanent because we're going to fix it sometime in the far distant future. For the water mitigation problem, I went ahead and just took a bunch of hardy planks and tried to form, I don't want to say flashing because it's not flashing material, but direct the water outwards so that the water doesn't come in. And I eventually contacted a few flashing people, which actually, it's if you think about it, there's not really like a dedicated group towards flashing, at least around me. So I contacted a couple gutter people to see if they could fold some flashing, and they're gonna come out and check it out. So we're gonna work on that sometime in the future. Anyways, the point is that um, let's just get to it. So for our situation, since our goal here is to seal off the fiberglass insulation in the wall, but still allow the wall to breathe. Okay, the wall needs to breathe, especially in this case, mainly because the wall can still get a little bit damp, and it is a little bit damp. Other thing that we found in this wall while we were taking out the fiberglass and just cleaning it up and vacuuming it was, for some reason, the sheathing is not touching the sill plate. There is about a half inch to a quarter inch gap between the sheathing or the fiberglass board and the sill plate. So that leaves a lot of room for critters and bugs and insects and other reptiles to get in there. We saw dead lizards, dead frogs, there was even a dead bird. Anyways, long story short, just took some spray foam or expansion foam or great stuff or whatever you want to call it. In my case, I used the OSI window and door foam in a foam gun and just sealed it off. That way it kind of blocks it off. Critters don't get in there. There's no space for them to get in there. Um, and it kind of seals it off. So we did that. And then we're going to be using WRB. WRB is weather resistant barrier. Okay, so normally by code, pretty much all houses built, at least in the US, have to use some kind of WRB. Um, and I know a lot of commercial stuff and a lot of homes are being built with zip system, but we're not going to talk about that. So WRB, the main job of WRB is to keep out bulk water, meaning if it rains on it or if you take a hose to it, water should not go through the WRB. I think by code somewhere it has to have somewhere around like a perm rating of 5 or something like that, minimum perm rating of 5. In my case, I went with DuPont Tyvek home wrap, mainly because it has a perm rating of, I think it's in the 50s, 53 or 58, depending on which model and where you get it from. So this stuff has a perm rating of 50, in the 50s, meaning it allows the air and water vapors to come through the wrap. Other popular home wraps like Typar, whatnot, I think have a perm rating of somewhere between 5 or 7 or something like that. And for my intents and purposes, because I know the wall can get a little bit wet, not will, but can get a little bit wet. Actually, it probably will, depending. You know what they say. If it's gonna get it, whatever. Anyways, if it does get wet, the vapor and the air can get out, allowing the wall to dry. That is very crucial. You do not put polyester or that clear plastic stuff on this wall or on your wall, mainly because that stuff is not permeable. It will trap the air and moisture in there and it will just rot it out, mold it up, and stink. I know a lot of you guys can argue it won't do that because they can always get up the same way it came in, but if there is not airflow, it will not dry properly. So my intended purposes, we use Tyvek foam wrap, like I said, to get as much air movement in there as possible. But and it will serve our purpose. It will seal the fiberglass insulation inside the wall. In my case, I took caulk and just caulked the outer layer of it, except for the top. I caulked the outer layer of it to minimize any air that can, or to minimize any gaps, meaning critters can't get in there. Um, and it just makes it a better seal. I also did that around the window on all four sides of the window such that critters can't get in there. And for some reason, if whatever they're in there, they can't get out, which may be bad. Anyways, but the process of installing the home wrap is to it's the same as you would do on the outside, except we're just putting it here on the inside. I know a lot of people use cap nails. In my case, I just use a stapler. I had a hammer tacker and a manual stapler. The hammer tacker is convenient because you can just go fast and just tack it on there real quick. But I would not use the hammer tacker on the edges where you put the caulk because obviously you put caulk there, you hammer it, that caulk is splattering. And that happened to me a lot of times, which is why I switched over to just manually stapling it. And that worked out fine. I sealed all around the edges of the window. I made sure the window wasn't leaking. I took some suspension foam and sealed off the the edges where the fiberglass insulation should have been but wasn't. So that's good. And I also, like I said, sealed off the outer ring except for the top of this Tyvek. So for my intended purposes, this is solved. I'm going to put a big dehumidifier down here to help draw any excess moisture out. And obviously permanently fix the flashing situation on the outside. Maybe not permanently, but as best as we can with the resources that we can get. I know it needs to be torn down, it needs to be fixed, but obviously when they can't do that anytime soon. So we're going to do that in the future. But for now, this is going to solve our purpose, at least on this section of the wall. I got to do it on the rest of the back side of this wall. And it should be good. Do not put drywall over this. I'm not going to do that. We're going to leave it like this for a while until we can fix the wall and then finish the basement. Do not put drywall over this, mainly because if the vapor gets through here and it hits the back of the drywall, which is paper, even if you're using the mold tough stuff, it'll eventually just mold, smell musky and all that fun stuff. So you just need it to dry. Just do this, put a dehumidifier down there, assuming if your basement has moisture. If it doesn't have any of the problem, you could probably work it just fine. Um, so like I said, this will prevent the tiny airborne fiberglass particles from going airborne and just getting into your lungs because you've sealed it off. Try to seal off at all the sections that you can. You can probably seal off the top here. I didn't do that because I plan on pulling it down a little bit and doing a little bit more work. But um, do that. So like I said, fiberglass is very bad if it gets inside your lungs. It's also very irritant if it gets on your skin. But anyways, seal it up if you can. Hope this video's helped you guys out. I know we're kind of using it in an unconventional way, the WRB in an unconventional way, but do that. Like I said, don't get the plastic stuff. You can use Typar if you want. I just went with the Tyvek stuff for all the reasons I already told you earlier. So, like I said, hope this video's helped you guys out. Protect your lungs. Don't even think about lung transplants and all that fun stuff. So, and we'll see you guys next time.